One in four Nigerians suffer from a mental illness. That was the headline that set off alarms in my head and scared me into doing a little bit more research. Let's understand briefly what mental illnesses are. Basically, they are conditions that cause behavioral and mental pattern changes in an individual in ways that are distressing to the individual and deviate from what we term as normal. There are a lot of mental illnesses such as anxiety disorders, personality and mood disorders, eating and substance abuse disorders. Most of these are described in the DSM Medical Journal, which is a diagnostic tool for psychiatrists and psychologists. Causes are just as varied. Mental illnesses could be the result of genetics or a mix of genetics and environment, trauma and abuse, physiology, among others. There is no one-size-fits-all cause for mental illnesses. How much of Nigeria's population are burdened with some mental disorder? It really depends on who you ask. According to one source, Nigeria seems to have about 10 to 12.5% of its population suffering from some form of mental disorder. This works out to around 25 million people. Another puts it at around 20 to 30%. A large part of the cases are depressive disorders, of which Nigeria has around 4 to 4.5%. This works out to around 9 million people and is consequently the continent's highest number of individuals suffering depressive disorders, although not its highest rate. Care for these people is a real bottleneck. Nigeria's health sector has been in dire straits for many years now, and there are significant policy issues, especially concerning mental health. For instance, Nigeria only has 8 federal neuropsychiatric hospitals serving a country of 200 million. Secondly, Nigeria's approved budgetary allocation for the health sector is around 7% of the national budget for 2021, which falls short of the 15% agreed upon by African countries in 2001. Thirdly, Nigeria has very low trained manpower to deal with the issue. There are only about 250 psychiatrists in the country of 200 million. The social issues are the ones that really stick out. Nigeria is not a very tolerant place. Although the degree of tolerance varies from region to region, the trend is really telling. Secondly, Nigeria has a lot of people living in hardship and poverty, and there is a high rate of abuse in the country, emotional, domestic, physical, and otherwise. For instance, 6 out of 10 children in Nigeria experience sexual, emotional, and/or physical abuse before the age of 18, with about half that number being physical abuse. It obviously looks like Nigeria is a breeding ground for mental illnesses. However, it also does not seem to be the case. Why is that? This is because it is a largely ignored problem by most of the country, even by those who are in need of help. And only 10% of those who need help can access it in Nigeria due to the sorry state of policy and infrastructure. And since Nigeria is a very conservative place, there seems to be no room made for conversations to that effect. This is such that many people who live with a disorder might not be aware of what they are experiencing. Another trend is the victim blaming. There's a thought strain that seems to suggest that the victim of a mental disorder is either suffering divine punishment for sins committed or has a weak mind. Many see issues like this as the victim's fault, implying that they would not be so ill if they weren't so weak-minded. For instance, a study done in 2016 found that 49.6% and 47.4% of respondents in the city of Kano believe that mental illnesses are caused by evil spirits and personal weakness, respectively. I did little surveys of my own, and while I'm not recommending you cite me elsewhere, I did find some interesting things. For instance, I found that in my small pool of respondents, majority affirmed to knowing only an average amount of information on mental health. That information seemed to mainly come from social media and television rather than school or family, which set off alarms in my mind. Depending on what your social media feed looks like and how rigorous you are in proofreading, you may be beset by a host of incorrect or misleading information. And since social media is for short attention spans, it's safe to say that a lot of people don't do significant fact-checking. Another thing that came up in my surveys is how much information they believed society has about mental health. Most thought society knows little about the issue, and when asked about how serious of an issue mental illnesses are in Nigeria, most agreed that it was of significant concern. There are more questions that I ask and analyze in my discussion document in more detail. So what can we do? First thing I'd say is get aware of what is happening around you. The issue is very real. Start by educating yourself and in turn educating others when you can. If you suffer a mental illness or you think you suffer a mental illness, getting professional care is the best thing you could do. However, Nigerian infrastructure means that that level of care is most definitely out of reach or difficult to access. There are non-profit organizations working in the field, such as She Rights Women and Mentally Aware Nigeria Initiative. I won't go into too much detail about what they do in this video. However, if you would want to reach out, links to their sites in the description. Finally, if you would want to have a more in-depth exposition to our discussion today, you can get my sources and discussion document. The link is in the description. As always, if you found this helpful, you can like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so. You can also follow me on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I am the Topite. Until next time, thank you for watching.